All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the money supply. Now, the money supply is really important because we need to know how much money is circulating in the economy so that we can kind of keep track of it for reasons such as inflation and all that. There's different measures of the money supply. There's M0, M1, M2, M3, and all of these they go from a narrower view to what we consider money to a much wider view of what we consider money. But we're mostly going to focus on M1. Okay, so M1 it basically consists of currency, like physical money, like dollars and coins. Um, what you normally would consider money, probably. But then it also includes something called demand deposits. Now, here's the idea behind demand deposits. Most of the time that you spend money, you're not spending cash. Sometimes you swipe a credit card. Now, credit card is not considered money because it's basically just loans. Okay, so we don't really consider that money. But when you deposit currency into the bank, okay, they hold that currency as reserves, or at least some of it. We'll go in detail about that later. And then they put these numbers in your account. Okay, you check your bank account. It says I have this many dollars in my account, and what that is, it's really an IOU from the bank. The bank, you can always take that to the bank, and the bank will give you currency in return. They say, hey, you say, hey, I have this many dollars in IOUs. I'm trading some of those IOUs for actual currency. But whenever you go to the store and you swipe your debit card, or whenever you buy a house and you write a check, what happens is these IOUs get transferred from you to someone else. And now someone else has access to these IOUs. Okay, someone else can trade those IOUs for currency. You don't own those IOUs anymore. And those IOUs for currency are called demand deposits. And that's actually the majority of the money in the money supply. It's not physical money. It's actually these demand deposits that we can trade with each other. Okay. Now, what's not included in the money supply is bank reserves. Okay, because that money is being held. Like you can imagine it like being in a vault somewhere. It's not circulating in the economy, so it doesn't contribute to stuff like inflation and all that. Okay, so most banking is fractional reserve banking. So full reserve banking would be like you deposit your money in the bank, and the bank is like, I'm going to guard all of this money. It's all going in the vault. I'm going to make sure it's here when you come back. Okay? But most banks don't do that, and they can't do that because they wouldn't make any money. Fractional reserve banking, you deposit your money in the bank, they hold some fraction of that in reserve, and they loan out the rest. Now, the way they're able to do that is most people don't come to the bank every day and decide to take all their money out. If someone comes and they take a bunch of money out, they'll give you some of your money and probably some of someone else's currency. And then they have to replenish their currency stock. Now, the amount that they keep in reserves is called the reserve ratio, and this is set by the Federal Reserve. And the lower this is, the more banks can loan out. The higher this is, the less they can loan out, but also the safer that the banking system is, because it's a lot easier for them to cover when people come in and ask for their stuff. Okay. Now, this can be a little frightening, okay, with the idea that not all of your money is there in the bank. You're like, oh, well, there's not enough reserves to cover all of our deposits. And this can lead to something called bank runs, where people freak out and they come in and they take out all of their money. This is especially bad if they're worried that the bank is going to run out of money, then they go and take all their money out. And this is kind of a vicious cycle because if you're worried about your bank running out of money and you go in and take out all of your money, well, now the bank has less money. And if everybody does that, they will eventually run out of money. This is called a bank run, a bank panic. Okay. Now, the good news is bank panics are super rare in the US. And one of the reasons for that is whenever you walk into a bank, you'll see that it's insured by FDIC. Okay. Um, and they'll say, um, here, you can, if your bank runs out of money, we will cover your deposits up to $250,000. Okay. And that's enough for most people to say, okay, I don't have to stress. I don't have to rush to the bank if I get worried. Um, so that prevents a lot of the banking panics that we've seen in the past. Okay. Um, Now, one thing I want to mention is that through this process of loaning out loaning out money, and this fractional reserve system is we can actually increase the money supply. Okay, because those demand deposits are included in the money supply, and only a part of that is being held in reserves. So the maximum money multiplier is the ratio of deposits to the maximum amount of money that's created. So if you create, or if we print however much more in currency, that results in a much larger money multiplication. It's 1 divided by the reserve ratio. So for example, if the reserve ratio was half, okay, 1 divided by 1/2 is 2. So those reserves, through the process of loaning out and only keeping a fraction in reserves, we can actually double our money supply. If you're not certain about how that works, I'm going to show you in the next video how that would go down, okay? But I'll save that for the next video.